In contemporary Japan, Shiro existed as an ordinary office worker, enduring a monotonous existence marked by an unchanging daily routine. Despite a constant longing for something more, his mornings consistently began with a bus ride to the office, where he toiled until late at night. Subsequently, he returned to his cramped apartment, typically passing the remaining hours engrossed in man-numbing TikTok videos. A deep desire for a more fulfilling life always lingered, and his aspirations unexpectedly materialized one day, when he awoke in an ethereal, white expanse. Initially disoriented by the emptiness, his vision soon sharpened, revealing him seated before a white-haired individual. This person, a K-pop idol, declared himself to be gone. However, Shiro, not being a young fan, remained entirely unfazed. Upon Shiro's inquiry about his location, the K-pop deity disclosed that Shiro had passed away and was now in a transitional state. His soul was on the verge of eternal dissipation, but the divine being offered an alternative, a chance to be transported to another realm. This was a fantasy world named Medios, where, if he chose, he could restart his existence in any form he desired. This proposition instantly captivated Shiro, who perceived it as a dream realized. The god promptly produced a keyboard. He began jotting down on core abilities to bestow upon Shiro, and before long, their allotted time concluded. Consequently, Shiro was dispatched to the fantastical realm of Medias. Upon reawakening, he discovered himself amidst a dense forest. Overwhelmed with joy at this new lease on life, he promptly rose and commenced exploring his surroundings. He soon emerged from the woods, noticing a small village in the distance. His immediate inclination was to investigate what intriguing things might be found there, but he reconsidered, realizing that arriving Penilas would likely lead to him being perceived as suspicious. Underneath his sustenance, Hetsen recalled the god as mention of enhanced scouting abilities. Test skills. He remembered would enable him to locate valuable items and ingredients of profiters, such that he could illusion. And slowly commanded the magic to activate, only for nothing to occur. This failure unnerved him. He questioned if the deity had deceived him, but quickly deduced he was merely using the wrong activation phrase. The moment he uttered sir, his scouting magic instantly engagered, revealing the whereabouts of a very valuable item within the forest. Recognizing the immense utility of this power, he proceeded to test another of his skills. This ability allowed him to acquire detailed information about specific objects. He experimented with various word combinations until Scan finally triggered the power, enabling him to learn more about the characteristics of items he could collect. Much like someone at a buffer, Shiro began gathering everything within reach. He assessed their quality levels before stowing them in his magical seed bag. This bag allowed him to store an unlimited quantity of items, free from any hidden costs. With all materials securely in his satchel, he opted to head towards the village. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, Shiro arrived at the village's primary entrance. A solitary guard stood watching. Shiro's greeting roused the man from his slumber, and it became apparent that the villagers were all of short stature, making Shiro the tallest person present. Avaji interpreted as advantageous for romantic prospects. The guard inquired if Shiro was a swordsman or acne. Expressing surprise upon learning he was primarily a gatherer, a profession uncommon in this realm. The guard unbarred the gate for Shiro, directing him to locate the principal shop situated in the village as well. This establishment typically handled such transactions. Shiro entered the tranquil village, proceeding along its broad thoroughfare. Numerous villagers observed him from a distance. Curious about the newcomer, Shiro nonetheless headed directly for the main shop and stepped into the dimly lit interior. The proprietor behind the counter offered a cordial welcome and inquired about what he wished to sell. Shiro presented a smooth, oval stone, which the shopkeeper took and instantly identified as anteater dropping. He declared it the most flawless specimen he had ever encountered. The shopkeeper expressed his eagerness to purchase it for 5 silver coins. Shiro quickly calculated that this amounted to roughly $350, a sum far exceeding what man might ever possess. He promptly accepted the offer. This delighted the shopkeeper, who repeatedly struck his face in satisfaction. The merchant then inquired if Shiro had any other items for sale. Shiro promptly displayed the entirety of his forest gleanings. The shopkeeper was utterly astonished by the quantity and superior quality of the goods, asking Shiro why he would bring such valuable merchandise, capable of fetching high prices in a major city, to a humble village. Shiro quickly fabricated a story, claiming to be a mere wanderer who got hurt item while journeying across the land. Nevertheless, the shopkeeper recognized his innate skill and offered him a time to retrieve precious gems from the nearby Ichi Mountains, a place where he might also encounter monsters. Shiro felt hesitant about undertaking such a mission immediately. However, the shopkeeper's offer of 20 grand for the game left him with no alternative but to agree. Having accepted, he bid the shopkeeper goodbye and explored the village until he located an inn for lodging. Securing a cozy room, he collapsed onto the film bench, weary from the day's exertions, yearning for a cleansing bath to wash away the accumulated dirt and grime. At that moment, a knock sounded, and a young girl entered the room, carrying a tub brimming with water for his ablution. Shiro, however, was accustomed solely to showers, and questioned what he is meant to do in this situation, to which the girl responded that he smells foul, suggesting he cleanse himself with a moist cloth, but Shiro instead asked if a shower is available. This confuses the girl, who explains to Shiro that such facilities don't exist for them, as only the nobility are afforded proper baths, while everyone else is expected to clean themselves using just water and a towel. Shiro is astonished that a fundamental act like bathing is restricted for commoners, but the girl then mentions that some liches possess the ability to perform magic and offer baths to others in exchange for payment, sparking a sudden idea in Shiro's mind. He promptly ushers the girl out of the room, giving her money along with a tip, and then closes the door. Shiro commences practicing his incantations, ultimately succeeding in casting a spell that transforms him into a water manipulator, enabling him to finally indulge in a motion-aided bath. After refreshing himself, he collapses onto the bed, overcome with exhaustion. Despite still yearning for his customary shower, he opts for sleep to ensure an early start to the following day. The subsequent morning, he awakens at daybreak and proceeds towards the forest, intent on gathering various provisions. While foraging for mushrooms, he soon discovers a peculiar mark originating from one of the bushes. He approaches to investigate, only to discover a decomposed corpse laying on the ground, causing him to jump back in rage and fall flat. After regaining his breath and examining more closely, he deduces that this individual was a security corps member, likely having perished while battling monsters. He ponders whether to simply depart the area but ultimately decides against it, instead taking the body and entering it deep within the earth. Before placing his sword as a headstone for the fallen man's grave, with that somber task concluded, he decides to prepare some supper. As the sun was already beginning to set, he first conjures a magical barrier around himself before settling onto the ground. Before placing a pot over an open fire, not being on it to rely on other pastor has contained dinner. Using some wild green vegetables he had gathered, and some meat possession, he concocts a stew from fresh ingredients, which proves to be incredibly delicious, concluding the night on a positive note. The next morning, he heads towards the haunted forest, a place entirely overgrown with dead trees and shrouded in fog, making visibility difficult even in broad daylight. He employs his life magic to see and ventures into the forest, fully aware that this location is reputed to be teeming with monsters. Yet, as far as his eyes can discern, there appears to be no living presence within the forest. He begins collecting items of value. Soon, having finished his exploration of the arena, he decides to leave. He spots Alif at the exit and rushes towards it, unaware Tatewa. Hurtling directly towards a treacherous lady, he ends up plummeting into the cavern and would certainly have perished. Had it not been for his quick wit as he employs flight magic to regain control and begins to float in mid-air. He gently lands on the ground and exhales a sigh of relief, realizing the extreme proximity he had to the end. Deciding to approach situations with greater seriousness and caution from this point forward, he once again activates his light magic inside the cave. And to his astonishment, the area is teeming with various types of ores. He promptly retrieves a small hammer and begins chiseling the ores from the surrounding rocks, quickly filling his bag with a respectable amount. He spots another ore further away, but a sudden earthquake reminds him that his time here is limited. So he swiftly employs his variable magic to blast away the rock, allowing him to acquire the ore more quickly. To his delight, this ore proves to be the misreal ore, which the shopkeeper had requested he quickly pockets it, but decides to venture further, even after another earthquake strikes. After some time, he noticed a blue light emanating from the tunnel end, which he follows, only to find an opening, revealing the bluest light he had ever witnessed in its center. He quickly distanced the rocks to examine the light, which is revealed to be as stir magical water. Pistons as the most incredible discovery he has made thus far. He immediately decided that he must bring some of it back with him, but then he begins to wonder if we possess a chanting large enough to hold the water, and if it might start leaking. Before he could decide again, however, a colossal black dragon emerges from the depths, spraying water everywhere and drenching Shiro as it rose, demanding to know who disturbed its deep sleep. Shiro, however, has witnessed an orgy, and doesn't even flinch, instead reverting to his default state. As a soulless salaryman who had always bowed to every single person in his life, he bows down to the dragon, apologizing for intruding upon its lair, but the dragon finds this hilarious, as it has never encountered a man with such composure, and asks who exactly he is. Shiro replies that he is a normal human, a statement the dragon refuses to believe, as it transcends an enormous amount of magical energy flowing through Shiro, almost on par with the dragon's own magical reserves. The dragon then asks Shiro if he could provide assistance, stating that only someone with an incredible amount of magic could help it in its current situation. In which it is stuck, it claims to have an egg that has not hatched, despite a very long period passing. And asked if Shiro could help with it claimed it wouldn't ask him to do it for free and simply to choose the water, from which dozens of visceral ores emerge. Shiro immediately agrees to the arrangement, so the dragon produces a black egg and throws it towards Shiro. Shiro catches the egg, trying to listen for a heartbeat before wondering what exactly he is supposed to do with it. Suddenly, he remembers that eggs need to be warm, so he uses his head magic to infuse warmth into the shen, which unexpectedly began draining Shiro's energy, prompting him to question if it was a deception, and if his end was near. He then lost consciousness, only to awaken immersed in warm water, where a different black-haired K-pop deity materialized, asserting that Shiro's recent actions were disturbing the world's equilibrium. Shiro inquired if he was deceased, but the god replied, "Not yet," and with that, Shiro fully regained his senses. Walking in gloom, he activated his light magic, only to discover that the infant dragon had successfully emerged from its shell. The larger dragon appeared ecstatic, and as the hatchling found its balance on the ground, the dragon expressed gratitude to Shiro for his aid, and requested that he bestow a name upon it. Shiro, somewhat foolishly, opted to call the baby dragon back, after which The dragon utterly astonished Shiro by declaring that the world resided with him indefinitely. Shiro struggled to believe that such an extraordinarily rare and magnificent creature could be born to him. But the colossal black dragon assured him of his immense strength and his definite capability to safeguard the hatchling. With that, the dragon vanished beneath the water as surface, leaving Shiro and Bee to proceed on their shared adventure. Shiro and Bee soon emerged from the cavern, Bee with them thus had already fallen. Bee began to soar joyfully, experiencing the external world for the very first time. And Shiro recognized that nightfall was approaching rapidly. He decided to establish a nearby camp city, and then poured a glass of the enchanted water from the lake. The ancient dragon had previously employed its magic to link Shiro as magical satchel directly to the lake. Because this mystical water was crucial for BS development, she swiftly consumed a single glass, and then requested as a conserve. Shiro provided a refill. However, Bee graciously offered it back to him, desiring him to also partake in the nourishing liquid and experience contentment. Following this, Shiro utilized several magic stones to erect a protective barrier. There be bypassing the inconvenience of verbally enunciating complete incantation. He was aware that magical stones were exceedingly scarce in this realm. A fact he learned from a book acquired from Shakespeare. Nevertheless, this posed no problem for him, as he possessed the ability to readily conjure magic stones. He vowed to thermal magic within his palm, fabricating a magic stone capable of generating a regulated flame for culinary purposes. As the fire ignited, Shiro commenced preparing a mud stew, and Bee immediately began to salivate profusely upon observing it. Shiro believed she could likely handle some stew and served her a portion. He questioned her about its excessive heat, yet Bee rapidly devoured it, scalding her tongue in the process. A rather undignified mishap for a dragon. Shiro was then compelled to blow on the stew to sufficiently cool air for her consumption, and Bee drank until she was completely satiated and weary. Shiro found her utterly adorable, but then inquired if they did they miss her father in the slightest. Bee instantly leapt to embrace him, conveying her joy at being in his company. Shiro proceeded to examine her statistics, and discovered she had already attained rank B, possessing some remarkable inherent ability. He was astonished by this revelation. However, he considered that regardless of her power, Bee remained a child requiring adult supervision. Bee commenced explaining to her that, even if she surpassed him in strength, she must avoid reckless action and hide his advice. Here, the young dragon was overly drowsy, and began snoring midway through his admonition. Observing her slumber, Shiro must claim he had acquired an enduring companion, though not in the manner he had inquired of the capability, and pondered if the god orchestrated this intentionally. The following morning, Shiro ascended the precipice he had fallen from the previous day, arriving at the forest net. To his astonishment, the woodland appeared entirely transformed. He surmised this must be one of the peculiar occurrences common in this world, as Bee commenced exploring the immediate vicinity. Shiro opted to search for valuable objects and uncovers a collection of unfamiliar herbs. Abruptly, he experienced an odd tingling sensation, and in the very next instant, Bee came soaring towards him, visibly terrified of something. Shiro promptly scanned for nearby monsters, and a multitude of indicators appeared on his radar. This was unexpected as he had encountered no monsters the day before, leading him to ponder if his deterrent odor, which had been repelling creatures, has now dissipated. He harbored no fear of engaging chess monsters in combat, as he anticipated acquiring valuable material upon their defeat. Nevertheless, the peril was not confined solely to the forest, and shortly thereafter, a giant rock falcon materialized behind him. Bee was petrified by the sight of the first-looking beast, yet Shiro perceived it as rather endearing when contrasted with the ancient dragon, as he perused the monster as description. He noted that its flesh was palatable, and this information alone sufficed for him to decide to hunt the creature. He first conjured a protective shield, then unleashed his speakers at the rock falcon, felling it instantaneously. Shiro was pleased to have secured on ingredient, but then B indicated additional monsters emerging from the forest map. He pivoted to discover wolves with serpentine tail and resolved to confront them in melee. He employed enchantment spells to render his physical lighter and more agile, so when the initial wolf looked at him, he evaded it by leaping high into the air. He then imbued his body with magic to make it incredibly rigid and delivered a powerful kick to the first wolf skull, instantly ending its life as the remaining wolves assailed him. But Shiro aspired prophet to great fortune. He deftly dodged their assault and dispatched them. Employing potent and rapid kicks, Shiro gathered mates from all the fallen monsters, but shortly thereafter, he observed even more creatures emerging from the forest. He was now exasperated, realizing he cannot sustain combat indefinitely. Consequently, B resolved to assist him. She attempted to flee while carrying him, and Shiro believed she was incapable of doing so. Nevertheless, B employed her guild power to hoist him alone, and Shiro decided to aid her by lessening his mass, casting a spell to make himself lighter. However, B was unprepared for this sudden change and abruptly rockets high into the sky. Shiro panicked, exclaiming that she is ascending excessively. Startled, B realizes Shiro will plummet outward with a shriek. Fortunately, the dense foliage below cushions his descent, allowing him to land unharmed. B swiftly descended, showering Shiro's face with licks, much to his subtle irritation. Upon rising, he observes that they have emerged from the woodland. Given B's incredible speed, which rivaled that of a fighter jet, Shiro expressed gratitude for her assistance, requesting she temper her strength slightly. He explained that he was considerably more delicate than she. However, B, failing to grasp his nuanced plan, responded with an enthusiastic embrace, inadvertently cracking a few of his ribs. Following this incident, he trekked towards the village Resuma. Shiro then produced a branch from his pack and began brandishing it. He informed B that this was a bolt from the fabled tree, Yggdrasil, rumored to be the very embodiment of the cosmos. Despite its current dormant state, B seemed to possess the knowledge to rouse the slumbering branch, emitting a pungent cloud of gas. This noxious vapor miraculously transformed the small twig into a formidable staff. Shiro, utterly astonished, pondered whether a merry-gatherer such as himself could even wield such an item as a way to avoid being perceived as a mundane sorcerer or similar. His musings were abruptly cut short by the sound of a thunderous roar. Shiro instantly became vigilant, preparing himself for combat. However, B sailed directly towards the source of the noise, causing Shiro concern for her safety. She pursued her, discovering her circling a particular tree. Upon reaching the tree, he encountered a disheveled and weary elf inquiring if she had been assailed by the creature. The elf then attacked, but then her stomach emitted the very same booming roar that had previously alarmed Shiro. The elven woman confessed she had consumed food in 3 days, leaving Shiro incredulous that the fearsome sound had originated from her own abdomen. She requested water, and they promptly offered her his scanty end. She drained the entire contents in a single gulp. While the water provided some relief, it did nothing to alleviate her profound hunger. Shiro then started searching for a lunchbox she had carried with him, presented the mail container to the elven maiden. She ravenously consumed its contents, subsequently exclaiming with an outburst of delight that the food was so exquisite. It made her feel as if she were ascending to paradise. Shiro was quite taken aback, having never imagined elves could display such unrefined conduct. He, however, pointed out that the food as appeared was likely due to her 3-day starvation. He then proceeded to question her how she managed to deplete her provisions so rapidly especially with a village situated relatively close by. The inquiry made her uneasy, prompting Shiro to playfully mock her, suggesting that even inexperienced travelers carry a pocket map on their expeditions. The elf became incensed, moving to confront him, but Shiro recoiled instantly due to her unpleasant odor. This fastidious individual exhibited what could be described as an elf-rakish tendency, remarked that he had anticipated elves would exude the scents of peppermint and strawberries, yet she reeked of fresh dawn. The elf, angered by his comment, retorted that she had been unable to cleanse herself, having been forced to camp outdoors for an extended period. She then prepared for a swift departure, expressing gratitude to Shiro for the meal, but also informing him that it was inappropriate to ridicule someone who had just been with her. She fled, leaving Shiro feeling rather let down by his initial interaction with an elf. He returned to collecting resources before exiting the forest, but then detected a carriage approaching them. From more than a mile's distance, a feat that genuinely impressed Shiro. Before long, the vehicle drew near Onoga. For Shiro to be truly captivated by the sight of a unicorn drawing in the merchant at the rein was equally astonished to encounter him. When inquired about his presence in the area, Shiro explained he was en route to Torumi village. Before, the merchant's family then paired from the carriage to observe the stranger. The man's gaze fell upon Shiro's staff, and he questioned if Shiro was a wizard or similar. Shiro nervously responded that he was merely a gatherer, a profession the merchant found even more remarkable. That a skilled gathering specialist were quite uncommon in this realm, the man subsequently invited Shiro to join their raid, given that the two were bound for Torumi village. Shiro inquired if his considerable haste and weight would pose an issue for the carriage's capacity. The man, however, assured him it was no problem whatsoever. Shiro accepted the invitation and came back into the carriage, discovering that the children found him quite entertaining due to his exceptional stature. As Shiro expressed his gratitude to the family for the lift, they dismissed it as a minor favor, explaining that mutual assistance was customary among the inhabitants of this region. Their demeanor towards him was exceedingly amiable. Shiro, however, sensed they were perhaps overly trusting for their own well-being. He then posed a hypothetical question, asking what their reaction would be if he were a brigand. He attempted to playfully intimidate the children, but the young boy countered that he couldn't possibly be a bandit, as the bell had not chimed. Perplexed, Shiro was then shown a bell by the woman, which contained a magical crystal designed to chime whenever an ill-intentioned individual was in proximity. Shiro was captivated by this ingenious device, contemplating whether he could replicate the magic crystal himself. Yet then abruptly realized that he had yet to introduce himself. Consequently, he shared details about himself with the family, who reciprocated with their own introduction. The man steering the carriage was named Polum. His spouse was Elise, and their offspring were named Yed and Kan. During their exchange of pleasantries, the boy unexpectedly began making sound, and the children observed that the noise emanated from Shiro's back. Eager to discover what he concealed beneath his coil, Shiro grew apprehensive, informing them it was a rare creature, and they made be startled upon saying either. Eliza reassured him, stating it was not a significant concern, as adventurers frequently traveled with monstrous companions. This remark bolstered Shiro's confidence, prompting him to release Bey, though not before championing her against beating Aion. The children were instantly charmed by Bey's adorable appearance, but the parents expressed surprise, as dragons were considered exceedingly uncommon creatures. Polum inquired if Shiro was a dragon knave. Given his position of a pet dragon, the Lord Shiro began to explain that Shiro's accidental discovery and subsequent hatching of a dragon egg proved to be an even greater astonishment for Polum and Eliza. Given that dragon nuggets are reportedly seldom encountered and dragons are exceedingly uncommon, Shiro's interest in these legendary figures is piqued. Drawing upon his memories of anime from his previous existence, he concludes that dragonflies must be incredibly formidable individuals. As those descend, the family opts to establish their encampment. Shiro illuminates the arid and then strategically positions magical stones around the perimeter. To form a protective wall, he informs everyone that these enchanted stones will deter creatures, but they will provide an alarm should any incident occur. The family pledges their complete faith in Bei, rather than in Shiro or the magical stones, leading to his subtle disappointment. Subsequently, as Eliza begins to ready dinner, Shiro requests to take over the cooking duties, retrieving his culinary implements. He extracts various ingredients from his enchanted satchel, presenting yet another surprise for the family, before proceeding to prepare a meal. Using the fresh provisions he gathered earlier, he crafts a more whose flavor astounds everyone, with Palum even shedding tears of joy, having grown utterly weary. After enduring a deed of deathmatch daily throughout their travel, he declares Shiro to be undeniably a sorcerer. He proclaims Shiro to be a culinary enchanter, prompting laughter from everyone. After which they engage in singing and dancing before retiring for the night. For Shiro, who previously dined in solitude back on Earth, this shared meal represents a novel experience, and he perceives the presence of companions during eating. That's a truly wonderful aspect. However, this concludes the current video. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next installment.